Welcome into Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Today on the show, maybe the Braves were on to something. Would it be a disappointment if Bijan didn't get 1,000 yards? And if he stays, he needs to produce. It's all next. It's Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery, Locked On Sports Atlanta.
This is Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Hitting Hard is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. We ask you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can get the latest episodes of Hitting Hard as soon as they become available. And we are now on the SiriusXM app. Yes, we are on SiriusXM. Check us out on that platform as well. And then follow me on my personal Twitter page at JMCH316. So, as the Braves swept the Marlins yesterday and took care of their business against, the floundering Marlins, and now 15-3 on the road, a remarkable record. But maybe the Braves were on to something, okay? Let me give you just some raw numbers, okay? Just giving you an idea of the defensive numbers for shortstop for the Atlanta Braves. So let's start with Orlando Arcia. He started 13 games this year. He played 111 innings in 61 chances. He had 22 putouts, 0 errors, and was responsible for 11 double plays, okay? Now, compare that to Vaughn Grissom, who has started 17 games. He's had 150 innings, 61 chances, the same as what Arcia has, but he's got 5 errors, and he's only started 8 double plays. Now, I'm not saying that Vaughn Grissom has been a problem at shortstop or this or that or whatever, but maybe the Braves were on to something. Again, they watched him every day. They watched Arcia and Vaughn Grissom, and they watched every day in spring training and all the reps and all the innings and everything. They watched him through his minor league career. Maybe they understood better than what we did, obviously, that maybe Arcia was the better option for now at shortstop, and maybe Vaughn Grissom wasn't a guy that was ready to take over the everyday role. Grissom has been fine with the bat. I mean, we knew that he was going to be okay with the bat. He's had couple of good moments. Obviously, Arcia's had some really good moments with the bats because it was completely unexpected. We didn't look at Arcia as a guy who would really provide any kind of offensive punch for this team. So anything that he did felt like it was going to be a bonus with the bat, but we understood defensively that he was going to be a pretty good shortstop and he can handle the workload. Now, the fact that, again, and this is a small sample size, and, we'll see what happens over the course of the year, but you look at the fact that Arcia has had 61 chances with no errors. Vaughn Grissom has had that same 61 chances with 5 errors. And Arcia's created 3 more double plays in less innings than what Vaughn Grissom has created. So, again, maybe we should give the Braves a little bit more credit for, maybe getting this right, because we were all frustrated going into the regular season with the notion that, well, it should be Vaughn Grissom, it should be Shoemake and all this. And I was guilty of that as well. Like, I was scratching my head saying that, okay, they're going to send Shoemake and Vaughn Grissom down to Gwinnett. They're going to send both of those guys down there, and neither of them is going to start with the big league club. Arcia is going to be our everyday shortstop to replace Dansby. And we've gotten used to the idea of we haven't had good defense. We've had elite level defense at shortstop, right? And maybe we didn't appreciate Dansby in some ways with how good of a defensive player that he was. Maybe we didn't. Maybe we kind of understood that Dansby was a really good defensive shortstop, but didn't maybe appreciate everything that Dansby brought to the table. And now with Vaughn Grissom, and look, he's playing because Arcia is hurt and they don't really have a choice. Now, I will say that if when Arcia comes back and, he's starting to take some grounders and, he's starting to get back in the flow a little bit and not quite ready and all that to come back yet. But I would think that, again, we asked about the idea of, okay, if Vaughn Grissom is gotten this shot, can he take the position? Can he do enough to take the position away from Arcia? Well, I don't know that he's done that. And I'm not knocking Vaughn Grissom. I mean, I still think that he can be a long-term viable option at shortstop for the Braves, but the numbers are the numbers. And it's not like Vaughn Grissom is getting his first major league exposure. He was up here for half the year last year. And the funny thing is, he was playing a different position than what he was playing in the minors last year. He had to move over to second base to take over for Ozzie when Ozzie got hurt. So it's not like he was in a comfortable position, that he was playing. He was playing out of position from what he had played the vast majority of his career in the minors. And I'm one of those people that thought that, okay, well, this will be an easy transition. He's been a shortstop for the Braves in their minor league system. He certainly showed last year he could be capable with the bat. Surely he can handle the everyday grind of the defense, that shortstop brings. And look, it kind of is a testament to the idea of playing shortstop in Major League Baseball ain't that easy. I mean, that when we've talked about this before, that is a premium position. Maybe one could argue that shortstop's the most important defensive position on the club, that you're going to get a lot of action at shortstop. You're responsible for a lot of things. You can create a lot of outs at shortstop, even when you get guys on base, obviously. So shortstop is a real premium position. We've seen through the years that you can have guys that are really good defensively and don't bring you anything with the bat, and those teams still value guys like that. Go way back, the Mark Belangers of the world, right? Who couldn't hit his weight. But if you can play great defensive shortstop, and the Braves talked about this specifically, and this is where I'll give Alex Anthopoulos and this organization credit, that they were very clear about the idea of Arcia being able to handle this load. And even though he hadn't played regularly since 2019, that's the last time he was really starting games for a major league club. He's been able to hold that job down, and he did a really good job. And we kind of, look, we talked about his offense, like, okay, well, he's hitting 300 and this, that, and the other. I understand now. Like, I understand now. And I don't want to say it's just a bonus. I mean, that's being almost disrespectful to what he is. But when you look at the raw numbers and you look at the innings and the games played and just some of the raw defensive numbers, just cursory numbers without getting into F war and FU and F this and war this and we're going to battle this or whatever, if you just look at the raw numbers, 150 innings with 5 errors and 61 chances and 8 double plays versus 111 innings with no errors, 11 double plays in the same 61 chances, it does say a lot to what Arcia was able to do, and obviously holding down that grind of everyday shortstop defense. So again, maybe the Braves were onto something, and maybe obviously they really understood a lot better than what we did. We got caught up in the emotion of the issue. All right, let's talk about our friends over at Built Bar. Listen, you're looking for those healthier snacks as we're trying to get in shape for the season, right? It's almost beach season, right? So we're almost to summertime, so we're getting through spring, headed towards summer. Built Bar's got you covered with the healthiest snacks out there in the marketplace. 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, but a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now we have multiple ways where you can get a hold of your Built Bars. You want to go to Built.com, go online, get your Built Bars, put your order in. They always have great flavors coming out every month. Okay, you can do that. But if you want to grab a hold of your Built Bars instantly, now you can head to the pharmacy section of Walmart or head over to Sam's Club and grab your box of Built Bars right off the shelf. So whether you want to go the brick and mortar route of going to Walmart, Sam's Club, grabbing them right off the shelf, or if you want to go online and have the convenience of shopping online, now Built Bar is giving you more options for getting a hold of your healthiest snacks. So how big of a disappointment would it be if Bijan Robinson doesn't run for 1,000 yards in this offense this year? So we obviously saw Tyler Algier, Cinderella story, come out of nowhere in all this and run for 1,000 yards in only 7 starts. Okay. And, obviously he was kind of one of the real surprises of this offensive unit. And it did speak to how well the Falcons ran the football, right? They were third in the NFL in rushing yards. They were 2 yards away from being the second best rushing team in the league, right? I mean, Tyler Algier averaged 4.9 yards per carry. I mean, an outstanding number, an outstanding season all the way around. Would I be disappointed if Bijan Robinson didn't match some of that same production? No, not really. Because I think when you look at what Bijan Robinson is going to be to this offense, it's not just he's going to be a pure running back and just line up in the eye and take carries and take snaps. Obviously, everybody with the Falcons has talked about his versatility. And I understand that gets to be one of those buzzwords and, one of those platitudes and campaign slogans, versatility, right? I mean, that's like with the Hawks, communicative and collaborative, right? I mean, we hear those buzzwords, but, we're like, okay, but certainly from a standpoint of what the Falcons want to do, they want that versatility. So again, whether Bijan Robinson is catching passes out of the backfield, he's running out in the flat and catching some passes, or maybe he plays in the slot or whatever, again, I saw a comparison that said, he's the closest thing to Marshall Faulk. I mean, okay, let's slow down on the Marshall Faulk talk. Like Marshall Faulk, I can tell you that guy was the best offensive player I've ever seen in my lifetime in the NFL. Like he was the premium guy. So I appreciate the comparisons and all that kind of stuff, but we're way far away from talking about Marshall Faulk, a Super Bowl champion, MVP, Hall of Famer, first ballot, one of the best offensive players in the history of the league. He could do everything. He could split out wide as a wide receiver, and he could also line up in the eye and just pound it inside. So let's not go down those comparisons for now. But we certainly know that he is going to be a versatile threat and a versatile weapon when you talk about what he can do in this offense. So again, it's not just going to be the idea of he's going to line up in the eye behind Keith Smith and they're just going to pound it on the inside. There will be some of that. There will be some of that, but I think you look at all-purpose yards when you look at what Bijan Robinson brings to the table. And my most important statistic, because I do think that, and we'll talk about this at some point, that the Falcons have to be an elite red zone offensive team. You can't keep selling me on Jonnu Smith and Kyle Pitts and Drake London and Bijan Robinson. You can't sell me on all those guys, and then we're not an elite red zone offense. That's the first thing that's got to happen. We got to be top 5 in the red zone. But again, we'll talk about that at another time. But I'm disappointed if Bijan Robinson is, let's say, 750 yards, 8 touchdowns, catches 45, 50 passes out of the backfield. Like that would not be a year that I would look at and say, oh, okay, well, that's a disappointment because Algier ran for 1,000 yards. We look at Algier's year and if we look at it sort of in a vacuum, with the injuries at running back and things like that, Algier was given an opportunity, and hopefully that doesn't happen with Bijan Robinson, that guys have to get hurt to get more playing time. And even with Algier, he only started 7 games. So it's not like that. And look, coming into the season, he was a guy that was looked at as he can do a lot of things in our offense, but he's not our every down back, starter every week and things like that. And then was pressed into duty especially when Cordero Patterson got hurt. So you kind of had to do that. But obviously, if things work themselves out right, there'll be a steady distribution of carries, whether it's Bijan Robinson, whether it's Tyler Algier, whether it's even Cordero Patterson. They'll use those guys in all different ways. So I won't be disappointed if we look up and say, wow, Bijan Robinson had, 750 yards rushing. He averaged almost 5 yards a carry, had 8 touchdowns, and, caught again 45 passes out of the backfield. I'm not going to be disappointed if he has one of those kinds of years because, again, his value, first off, will be in the red zone more than anything. That's where his value is really going to be. Listen, what I will be disappointed in, okay, is if he's 750 yards, 45 receptions, and he's 2 touchdowns. That's the Kyle Pitts thing. Well, he got 1,000 yards. Yeah, he got 1,026 yards in 17 games, and he only had 3 touchdowns. How big was his impact at that point? So, again, if he's 750 yards and 45 receptions and averaging 4.9 yards a carry, but he's 2 touchdowns, well, then I'm going to be like, okay, well, how versatile was he? How much did we get versatility out of it? And I'm not going to compare the Todd Gurley thing. I know people have compared that. Well, he was the offensive rookie of the year and all that. Okay, I mean, that's great. When the Rams really got good, when Jared Goff was playing really well, they were 7-9. He was the offensive rookie of the year, and they were 7-9. Like, how good was it? How much was that impacting things? Right? How much did an impact did that really have with his rookie season? But again, that's another discussion for another day. I know people don't like to hear about running backs that aren't impact players and all that's line of scrimmage. But anyway, so but I won't be disappointed if Bijan isn't a 1,000-yard running back. Could he be a 1,000-yard running back? Absolutely. No question about it. He can certainly be a 1,000-yard running back when all is said and done. But would it be a disappointment if he's not that? No. If he can be a touchdown machine, if he can be an 8-touchdown guy and run for 750 yards and catch 45 passes, then he is that versatile guy. Then he is that guy that we thought that could have all this versatility in an Arthur Smith offense. So no, I will not be upset if Bijan Robinson doesn't run for 1,000 yards, but there better be some caveats and some other things that go along with it. All right, once you've made Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery your first listen, make sure you go in as you listen to the podcast and leave us a comment in the comments section of whatever platform that you're on that you are an everyday listener. We call them our everydayers. So make sure you leave us a note that you are an everyday listener to the podcast. I had somebody text me on the radio station last night, said, hey, I'm an everydayer. So I thank you so much, and thank you so greatly for being a part of our growing community as, again, we're heading into year 2 and now on the SiriusXM app. So, obviously there's been a lot of angst about what Marcell Ozuna is and things like that. And here over the last couple of days, he's had big games, right? He had the grand slam a couple of nights ago, had the other home run in the game, drove in 5 runs, right? Then yesterday in the game, he hit another homer, drove in, a run, and all of a sudden now he's kind of got his home run stroke back, right? Now, I understand that Marcell Ozuna is a polarizing figure, right? And a lot of Braves fans want him gone. And I would not be upset if he was DFA'd at some point. But here's the reality of the situation, okay? While the Braves are battling injuries, while they are trying to fight through what they've got going on right now, and look, they're the best team in the National League, okay? So let's not boo-hoo, for what the Braves are right now. They're the best team in the National League. I don't care about the Pittsburgh Pirates and all. None of that matters to me. They're the best team in the National League. So while we're boo-hooing and poo-pooing and all these other kinds of things about it, okay? And let's face it, they are not ready to just DFA and eat $37 million of Marcell Ozuna's money. Yeah, I know Jason Hayward was DFA'd. He had 23, 24 million. Yeah, I know Madison Bumgarner was DFA'd. He had 34, 35 million dollars, whatever. Okay. I get all that. But this organization isn't willing to just suck it up and take it on the chin and hand out $37 million for Marcell Ozuna to just walk away from this team. They're going to play him, and they're going to give him every opportunity to either stand up straight and get on his feet or just completely collapse underneath the weight of his own body and fall fall into a pit, right? So if Marcell Ozuna is going to be here and they're not going to DFA him and they're still going to give him opportunity, then he better play and hit. And I know a lot of fans are like, well, if he fails, then we can get rid of him faster. Yeah, but they're not necessarily going to do that though. If you weren't going to get rid of him when he was hitting 085 for the first month of the year, you had plenty of opportunity. Like, it didn't take a whole lot to see that, oh, okay, this guy's hitting 085. Can he really do anything? Obviously, he doesn't play defense. He doesn't run the bases. He doesn't steal a base. He doesn't he doesn't dominate lefties. He doesn't do all these different things, right? So there's plenty of opportunity to go in there and say, okay, we can live without all of this. But they're not doing that. And if he's going to play, then he needs to produce. And it's good for the Braves that he produces. He's been a big piece of why they've won over the last couple of nights. Listen, Dylan Dodd was kind of scrambling, rambling, bumbling, stumbling, kind of fighting his way through, right? 6 innings, 8 hits, 3 runs, 3 walks, right? Kind of just grind it out for 6 innings yesterday. Well, look, it was aided by Marcell Ozuna and the offense and the bottom part of their offense over the last couple of nights, getting some runs yesterday. And still finding a way to get 6 runs when all was said and done, right? So if he's going to be here, it's only good for the Braves that he produces. And I asked the question, I say, are you for him or against him? Because you have to be for him. If you're a fan of the Braves, the Braves logo on the front of the jersey versus the name on the back of the jersey, and you want to see them win, then you want Marcell Ozuna to be something. You want him to succeed. Well, but that means he's going to be here longer. Yeah, but at the same time, if he can find a way to increase his trade value, and make no mistake about it, that even if the Braves are able to trade Marcell Ozuna, they're going to have to eat some of that money. Like, no team is just arbitrarily taking on his contract for the $37 million. And again, I know it's prorated now at this point. Okay, so I got all that, right? Okay, but no one's taking on the $37 million contract of Marcell Ozuna. Like, nobody's taking that on. So if you're going to move him, the Braves are going to have to pay a portion of that contract. They're going to have to eat some of that money. But if they can get anything back in return, or a team picks up some of the money, again, I don't care what that percentage is or whatever like that, whatever it ends up being. But if a team will pick up some of that money when all is said and done, that's only good for the Braves. So meanwhile, as long as he plays well and he's here and he's going to play, then he needs to produce. Because the better he does, the better the Braves are. And the more it strengthens and lengthens that lineup. And without Travis d'Arnaud at DH right now, and obviously Harris getting just back in the flow of things, right? And all these different injuries that the Braves have battled through this year. We saw Michael Harris get hurt again. Ronnie got plunked on the shoulder. Again, you never know when you need guys to step up. And Ozuna's done it the last few nights. And yeah, you still look at all the numbers and say, okay, well, he's only hitting 153 and he's got 5 homers and 8 RBI. Yeah, but a week ago, he was 2 homers, 2 RBI, and was hitting 085. Progress, baby steps, right? Little baby steps in progress. It's, again, if he's going to be here and they're not going to DFA him and he's going to stay with the club and try to work himself out of this funk, then he needs to produce. And it's only good for the Braves that he figures out a way to be an offensive weapon again for the Braves. Will he ever be what he was in the pandemic year? Not a chance. Will he be what he was in his free agent walk year with the Miami Marlins, where he was 37 homers, 124 RBIs, and hit 312? Not a chance in the world. But he can have some value and he can contribute. And right now, the Braves need certainly all hands on deck to produce for them and obviously lengthen this lineup as they continue to roll on the road. And look, they're going to face a whole string of American League teams coming up here, and they're going to start, over this weekend with the Baltimore Orioles, and they're going to play a whole bunch of interleague games. Hopefully Marcell Ozuna can figure some things out and he can continue this streak where he plays well. And again, he gets a hold of a few, he can hit it out of the ballpark. That's the one thing that we know that he can do when it comes to baseball. He may not be able to run, may not be able to field, may not be able to steal a base, may not be able to score runs, may not be able to drive in runs without a home run. But when he gets the bat on the ball, it does tend to go a long way. And at least he's got that skill that maybe he can help the Braves out with. All right, thank you so much for making Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery your first listen.